Hey guys, how's it going? It is April 3rd, 2018, and boy, am I a lot more positive than I was earlier today. Had a pretty good day, actually. Day's going by good. The week, I think this is calm before the storm, though. I think something's going to hit at work this week, but we'll see. I'm still optimistic. So far, it's been a lot better than I expected. And it's kind of changing my view, it's kind of changing my mood, among other things, which is always good. But I had the well. First of all, let me get to why you're first probably here, or maybe you're here or not. Let's go into the Southwest and see what we are at. And yeah, I've been in LA. Absolutely. So let's take a look at the Mojave sub. So I've already seen Tim is looking to dispatch, which since he was at the moment he's the first call on it, I'm gonna go with Tim. And if I know there's others too, possibly on Sunday I'll give that up as well. Again, we may have to consider expanding just to get more dispatcher positions, but I'm not 100% sure of that yet. So let's see here. What did I want to do? No, I don't want to do that. There's something I want to do, and I've lost it here. Oh, that's what I want to do. Okay. So we're at 4 p.m. here. So we're going to 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So we have got, first of all, in Mojave, I've also got, Hans has got, I think he's only got about an hour and a half available. So if there's somebody else that's willing to switch as well, I'm not too sure if he's going to, I think he's starting at 6 p.m., but sometime around 7:30 or so, that might be available to recrew, likely out of Mojave, because there's a little bit of work to do in Mojave just to get that blocked and ready, or separated, because there's the industries over at Fleta, plus there's the industries up to Tehachapi. Of course, that's all, only one at a time anyways. I don't want to have two crews on. We don't need that much. What else is going on? So we got north, these are north, yeah, these are northbounds, aren't they? Yeah, so they're going off out of the system. That one's just doing its crew change, going out of the system. That's a southbound climbing the hill. Another northbound going down the hill at Beeville, and got a vehicle train with plenty of power heading up the hill, already past Cameron. Actually, he's getting to the point where he's going to start going down, so he doesn't have too much more of a climb. Somewhere around Mojave, or just up from it, not so much power on a 3.3, but might have a hard time starting on the hill. It's hard to say. 3.3, sometimes they put 4 engines on him, but he's heading uphill. And then we've got one for Los Angeles. Actually, he should be heading off to Vincent, heading southbound. And there was a train, I'm not too sure which one that is. It looks like it's a northbound. I don't know which one it is. I'm not going to worry about going into it to find out, but that's available. Looking across the desert just to see what's coming into play. This is all, of course, fleeted. Got a manifest train coming out of course, this the staging area at Daggett or Yermo, which of course is not prototypical, but that's just the only place I can stage them. I forgot that there was another way I could have staged them, and that was I could have brought them down to Lenwood and bring them that way. I totally forgot about that. Something to think about. We'll see. I think I have a lead. Oh, maybe that comes out here somewhere. I don't think it comes that way. I'd have to see, but I'm pretty sure they come out this way, but I could be wrong on that one. I might be thinking of the old RTS spurs, or the RTS spawns, I should say. So, looking pretty good. I have got, as far as, let me go ahead and put up, where is it? Not Busy Barstow. Where's the one? Urgent trim job. Where's the, BNSF, what's that one? I didn't know that. Run an eastbound BNSF can, oh, there's a lot of, there's two of them, huh? Modders. Run an eastbound BNSF container train that originated in Long Beach. Train starts at the Alameda corridor and the DS has you cleared. That's interesting. That's a world save? Huh. I never noticed that one. Well, that's kind of cool too. Maybe we'll go for that one. There's a couple of 2018 ones. So the Protolance is mine. Well, let's try that one. See what that looks like. Now, mind you, it's probably going to wind up having the goofy cars on it, or the old cars, but we'll see. If we're lucky, we can sit inside. If not, we'll just follow it anyways. And I'll talk about LA here. There's not much in the way of trains on that one. Yeah, I'm not too fond of that one. Nah, I think I'll piss on that one? No, I'll skip on that one. Busy La La Land is really huge. Let me just take a look at this one. I think these are pretty small in comparison. That's got only 7 trains. They call them world saves. It's kind of interesting. I suppose. Let me go with the Busy La La Land one, and then we'll just go with that. Might go on a different route today. I'm going to go onto an Amtrak train. That's going to take a while to load. And yeah, there's those are probably Seligman sub-trains that it's having difficulty with. So yeah, LA has been one of these things where I have been, I mean, make no mistake about it, I am glad I got it. I really am. It's kind of like version 2, except version 2, the pros were really, really strong in comparison, but there were still negatives. LA, the pros are stronger, but there's a lot of challenges. Now, I don't mean, I don't want to use the word negatives because the only negatives are really associated with what version 2 is capable of to some degree. So that's cool. So we're not going to worry about all the other stuff. I'm just running the trains, and then I'll line up some trains beside. Holy crap. That's a lot of stuff to, yeah, I know, you want to get going, I get you. I can't even hit those things. Okay. Well, the key here is I wanted to get a train out of here, but I don't know which one I want. So I'll get to my ideas very shortly. I just want to get us on a train. Yeah, I don't want that one. I actually do want a, I know it's that San Diegan one. So what I want to do is I want to get myself into this car. Not too far away, okay. This is what I like doing when riding a train. Can I? Oh, it's a cafe? Is that why? Yeah. Oh, I'm in the cafe car. Oh, I screwed that up. Here, I don't want the cafe car, I want the coach. Yeah. Sometimes I like to fly ahead, and to do that you have to actually get in, but I'll do this. I think I did this the other day, but whatever. Doesn't matter. Do I want to... I'm debating to come down here. What we got here? We got trains going one way. I'm not even sure what this guy looks like. He's going in. I can't tell for sure. Like signals are going all over the damn place here. Oh, this is supposed to go to supposedly go to San Diego's. Let's just go to San Diego, whatever. Before I do that, I will turn this signal off. Put that one on. Yeah, I'm just gonna stay at the top. I'm gonna stay at the top, and then I will... I guess slowly start to figure a way how to get up there. So I want to go that way. That'll take me on to 3. I think I can do that, but I'm not positive. That should give me the lights I need. Yeah, it looks like that's giving the lights I need. Doesn't take me to San Diego, but that's okay. That thing's gonna beep like crazy. Well, by the time I get down there, I gotta get across. So, holy crap! That's the only problem about this thing, is it does a lot of this stuff, but yeah. Okay. You can only imagine all the people that are stopping and say, I did this that way, and then, you know, maybe I'll pause it or something, or I'll have them all stop later on. Who knows? How many AIs are running? Holy crap. That's a lot of AI. So I don't know what, looks like we've got a lot of traffic on the other side, so maybe I'll scoot on over to the other side here. Though I do like the curve here. Yeah, I saw that the other day. It's okay. The other side. There we go. We'll get another curve eventually. We'll look out along this side tonight. So anyways, I'm sure there'll be a lot of things bugging us about stop signals, and try to avoid those. So as you can see, this is a pretty big territory. And looking at the dispatch screen, actually, let me just take a quick look at it here. You've got one subdivision of BNSF, which is going to be your primary focus. Then you have some UP sections. A lot of it is, you know, you got the big one separation. I'm just focusing on that screen for now. So yeah, you got the big one separation, but pretty much you have the line that goes through East LA, heads over all the way up to West Taylor, which isn't too much. Again, mostly double track, and then a little bit of a single track section. So really, one really good dispatcher should be able to handle all of this, and otherwise 2 dispatchers could handle it. I don't see why it can't be done by one really, I wouldn't say qualified dispatcher. I haven't really taken a look at the traffic levels. So there's a lot of potential there for that. Trying to do like switching and trying to dispatch might be challenging. I haven't really looked into that. I haven't even tested that theory yet. And all these stop signals you're seeing are actually outside the LA area. Most of it, because it's double track, provided that trains aren't calling too many signals, that's usually a sign he's coming behind another one, means that everything should be fine. So there, we'll take a look out the windows and I'll explain the rest to you. So I've had different ideas. I've started thinking about some of the challenges that could happen if X and Y and A, B, C, it doesn't work or whatever. The big thing for me, as far as I can tell at least, I wish it was just this sub. I don't know what that thing is. I guess that's just switchers sitting over there. But the big thing for me that I see is a lot of variation, and I like to maximize on options. One thing that you have, like, say for example, wow, that is annoying. I see a train over there. I don't know if he's lit up or whatever. Actually, you know something? I know I can get those things off. Let me turn the signal. All the signal calls, I'll turn them off. That should stop that for now. And I'm not worried about us. There we go. Much better. So anyways, as I was saying, having as many options as possible I think is intriguing for both an end user. There's a train. That's why I wanted to see on this side for change. And of course, that's all eye candy right now, which is fine. Sometimes eye candy's cool. Other times it's just for the sake of eye candy. It's nothing more. You see, I'm missing a lot of container files still. But having the options or the ability to give choices to people is always a good thing to have in programs. It's also, from a server standpoint or from a service standpoint, it's always good to have, because what that does is it allows, number one, it usually means people will find or have the ability to find what they're looking for, and there will be no so I get a lot of guys who'll come on to, say, the Mojave server, or even, you know, some of the other servers that I used to run, and they would always ask me what needs to be run, what, you know, they're willing to do whatever needs to be done. Well, what needs to be done is great, but it's also supposed to be fun for you and, you know, enjoyable. It's supposed to be a hobby. So yeah, there's times where key positions have to be filled. So, and there's sometimes, you know, key things that could be done and stuff like that to keep the railroad moving, etc. But in reality, the way I see it, at least, and I mean, there's one way of looking at it. You can, for example, what Ski's doing. And actually, I ran on Ski's server. He had a private server set up for the two of us last night, and he had been, he actually built trains out of Barstow. He had built the LAC bar. Oh, that's cool. So he built LAC bar. It took him a few hours in the hump, and he was able to build that. Then I think he ran it overnight. He had it all fleeted, and when he woke up in the night or whatever, it was, you know, it was almost there or something like that, so that he was able to stop the train, be able to do his set-offs and all the rest. So he basically had every other territory fleeted, which is fine to move traffic. What you'll find, though, is after a while, you'll see in fleeted traffic, what normally happens is you'll have a bunch up. And I know a lot of people who actually fleet Seligman sub, for example, because they just don't have enough dispatchers, so they fleet Seligman sub, or maybe they even fleet Needles if they're not doing anything else and they're more focused on Barstow, but they want to provide those things. So what ends up happening is you have the lower HPT trains, or your manifests or whatever, they wind up, or they can't go over a certain speed, plus they get on grades and then they can't go any further, and then you got intermodal trains or passenger trains and stuff like that that suddenly get trapped behind. There's a tower. I'm not sure what one, but was that? Oh, that must have been Hobart Tower, because it looks like we're coming up to Hobart now. Yeah, yeah, I'm starting to recognize it. It's pretty cool. Kind of neat how they got this all set up and everything. It looks very, 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 you know, realistic, and you know, a lot of immersion built in. I mean, it just looks and feels busy. So anyways, as I was saying, so you have yeah, I lost my train of thought because I was so mesmerized by the yard coming through. I was just like, oh wow. I don't know where I was at. I'll have to think about that now. because I totally lost my train of thought. Um, I talked about immersion. That kind of threw me off. But anyways, I'm not going to worry about it. So, as I was saying, you give the options. Oh yeah, what skin I was doing. Let me start with that. So yeah, we were running and we ran a train. He had it running. We brought it. I was conductor because I wanted to relax. I didn't want to really run a train, which actually makes for me personally. This is why I like running trains on Bakersfield or the big grades. A lot of times I like running up the big grades because I can just leave it in notch 8. I know where the grade crossings are, and then I can just basically relax and do other things. That's also why I like dispatching too, a lot of times. Plus, I enjoy dispatching, but it allows me to do virtual rail fanning, running the server, doing other things. But last night was a challenge. It was very, very challenging to say the least. And that's where I was like, okay, well, that's okay. Challenging is good. You want things realistic. But I know generally, even though it's not fully blocked, especially with a train coming out, they tend to, a lot of the industries do tend to split together to some extent anyways. That's cool. Yeah, again, I all of a sudden I just like eye candy. Um, but I was reading some people in the forums the other day. They didn't realize they could do this. I'm like, oh yeah, you can do this. You just have to find the right coaches, and you just sit back and set things up. So okay, so we were doing that, and I mean, we spent, I don't know, nearly 3 hours I think last night, and we brought the train from the last set off into, and then we brought the train into Los Angeles Junction. Found some tracks there. Was able to. We were able to take that. Oh, that's the power there. I recognize that. We brought the power down here too last night too. Afterwards, after we dropped our train and was able to set it up in various tracks and set out cars where we wanted to, we brought the power back over, and then we took over the LA Junction job, which was basically about 2 hours of taking the scrambled mess of cars, for the most part, that were all over the place, which is somewhat typical, but what happens is, I find with industries, a lot of times you have your supply chains. So they'll come in on one or two or three different trains. They won't come in on every train, and that's one of the things that Run8 doesn't really consider too much, unless, of course, you set the filters up so that it brings in only certain trains per inbound train, which is possible. But anyways, I wasn't worried too much about it. We just dealt with it, and by the end of the night, we did have things sorted out pretty good. So the next time, or if I'm running with him, or either he's going to run it himself, whatever, should be able to start switching industries. So that's cool, and that's great. That's one job. Now, I can say maybe that job's a little too intense for me. Let's say let's just pretend it was. And it was intense, but you become more accustomed to it, and it really makes you appreciate how much work is involved in many train operation. I'm not talking about the physical, the hours away from home and all that other stuff. I already know about that, but a lot of people don't realize that not every train job is glamorous, and that there's a lot of there's a lot of stress involved, especially, you know, with time and um, you know, away from family and all that stuff. But then there's the actual job itself and the challenges, like making sure you're honking for every grade crossing. I've been Sanford sub was a real lesson of like, holy cow, that's a lot of grade crossings you got to honk for and pay attention to. Um, that was intense. I found. Never thought Sanford sub was going to be intense, but it is intense to know where all those grade crossings are and to be prepared for them and to, you know, and then you have to know the speed limits and all that other stuff, blah blah blah. But to have a switching puzzle type situation where you're dealing actually with an empty 8-track yard at A yard for LA Junction. There's another diamond. And you're actually in the process of using pretty much every one of those 8 tracks. Now, if there was cars going outbound, at least one of those tracks, if not two, would be filled up with outbound cars. So now you're dealing with, well, I don't know if there would be outbound cars per se. It all depends when, if the outbound train was departing immediately and it was from the day before, or if it just does its thing or whatever. But um, let's just say that there could be other complications. But trying to block that all up, I mean, I was even saying to Ski last night, I was like, you know, and as a conductor, I didn't have access to the up-to-date switch list. There is a trick for you guys if you're ever running as a conductor and you want that switch list, the Control L. What you have to do is you have to take control of that train once when it's first built or when it's ready to go. Then you have to give it back to your you have to relinquish it, give it back to your engineer. The engineer will then have the updated switch list, but you will at least have the list. But the conductor is much better to have a printed switch list at the beginning going in so that he can write down a plan. And that would have been a lot easier for me. I don't have my printer really set up at this point. I probably have some work to do to just get it back to where it was. But in a situation like that, I would have much rather had a working switch list to work off of than the digital form, just because I can get a pen and I can think of how I would, you know, how I want to switch it out ahead of time as the engineer and us. We're getting down the line, and you know, you're basically working out the puzzle, and that can be kind of fun. But the way we did it last night, it was relying a lot on my memory, and my memory's not that good, so even short term. So I was just like, whoa. I couldn't remember what side of the yard I put certain cars on. It was intense. But let's just assume, because that's intense and I'm not used to it or I don't have the tools, let's just say that there are some easier jobs. Okay. So when you have so many options, assuming that all those options are, for the most part, readily available at any given time, then suddenly you're not obligated to doing one thing. Like one thing when I was on the old California server, I felt like I felt an obligation to dispatch a lot because we were always short dispatchers. We don't have the case right now in Mojave. We actually have a fair amount of people that are interested in dispatching, but of course we only have one dispatcher position. So I have to share that because I certainly want people to have the opportunity. I want people to learn. I want people to grow, get experience. Hopefully learn a few tips from me or others, and can continuously improve, of course. Experience, it takes experience and various things, but you want somewhat efficient dispatchers, or at least it's just a matter of experience and understanding how the railroad works, understanding how the locals work. Those kind of things. A place like LA gets a lot more complicated because you're dealing with a web of tracks, but it's somewhat linear. It looks a lot more complicated than it is. The main lines are actually fairly, once you get used to it, it's not that bad. It's the intricacies of the various local yards that really maze things. And that's something I still have a lot to learn. But I'm looking forward to learning that. I was almost burnt out last night a little bit. I started feeling that towards the end of the night, but then again I was tired. I'm just kind of tired today, but I'm okay. So, ideally, like I said, you want to have options. So how do you do this then? The one way how Ski's doing it is actually a pretty good way, and that is just fill all the yards, have all the supply trains come in, and then you have all these available positions that you post up, and people can take it and do it whenever, and you know, timing's not worried about the main lines. They can do whatever they want when they want. They're just kind of actors. So, you know, just like the trains are kind of actors in this, they really have no bearing. This train's just running, and, you know, if a train passes me by, of course I'm on the most left track right now, but before, you know, there was a couple trains that were passing by, and you know, I'm not even looking out the other side, which is fine. I'm just kind of looking out at the scenery on this side for the hell of it right now anyways. But you've got I mean, you look at all the scenery, it's crazy. But so that's one way of doing it. I tend to, as I said before, I tend to look at it as a system. Now, I'm not huge on, the bigger the system, the more difficult it is to manage. And this is why I've always been somewhat I don't know, I guess critical, I guess would be the term, of the continued expansion of California. I actually like the idea of going to LA, because LA now, that totally gives West Colton meaning. It actually gives an endpoint for some of the BNSF trains as well as the UP trains. It doesn't end everything, because of course there's Long Beach and a few others, but that's okay. That's not a big deal. At least that gives a run for some of the other ones, so it's not a big deal. But in a big world thing, if I was to say how far I would go in an ideal big world type environment, if I had enough people to run it, I would basically use the routes I have, and that is, I would have Barstow-centric, I would have Needles, I would have the original Mojave, I would have Cajon, and then I would have LA. I've never purchased Seligman, and I never will. And that's no offense to I'm sure Seligman's great. I have no need for it. I actually at this point, I would be very hard pressed to even purchase if they ever, and I know they're talking about connecting. I think there was one talk about connecting that between Vincent and the corridor thingamajiggy, or whatever the hell you call that thing. Almighty Corridor or whatever. Just talking about Long Beach. Okay, that's fine. And I mean that could give it even more operational, but there is so much operational possibilities now. It's almost I dare say overkill. I mean, you could have easily made this. Well, no, you couldn't have easily made this in 2 routes, because it would be very difficult to make this into 2 routes. I can understand why BNSF might have been the focus at one time, but then everybody started thinking about, well, what about West Colton? You know, why you know, give UP West Colton a possibility to have some factors, and I kind of agreed to that approach, but I think it was a almost like an afterthought when you look at some of the other things. Oh wow, I'm gonna neighborhood with howling dogs. Yeah, it's that time of night, folks. Holy smoke. Hasn't happened in a little while, but every now and then. I don't know what makes them howl. I have no idea. It's like I'm in a forest or something, and there's a bunch of dogs or something howling in the, you know, like a wolf pack or something. I should record that, and I should actually record that and actually play that for Fred one night and say, "This is your dogs. This is what I have to hear when I try to do a live stream." Do you got muzzles for your dogs? I guess the word muzzle scared them. Anyways, they'll start again, trust me. But I'm pretty certain they will. So here's the other idea that really started coming into mind later in the day. I had some moderate success in having a few neat little features of Florida where a supply train would drop off cars at various places. I think I have to set myself up for San Diego. Am I already at full? I'm not at Fullerton yet, am I? I don't even know where I am. I'm not, I think I am. I'm coming up to it. Holy crap. Well, let's just forget I'm going to San Diego, and I'm just gonna keep going. I don't know what this guy's doing, but he stopped at the side. He's just stopped there for some reason. But yeah, let's keep going. We're not going to San Diego anymore, people. Even though we're the San Diegan, we're taking a detour somewhere. I don't know. We're gonna go down the Yuma sub. Who knows? I'm just gonna keep it going. We got more time to do, and I'll probably see. This is what happens when you get stacked too. If I get behind an intermodal train or even a manifest, and suddenly I'll start getting yellows. But I was coming up to an approach. Why the train was slowing down. But the approach I had, is speaking of approaches, was to have the yards act as pseudo industries, and what that did was it allowed me to have options for various locals throughout the Sanford sub network, and that gave a clock a countdown clock that's built into the industry system. That what it would do is after a certain amount of hours, it would revert the cars back to, if it was a load, it would go to an empty. If it was an empty, it would go to a load. The tags would change to whatever was appropriate, and basically you would have the ability for an outbound train to do its thing. So that suddenly gives it a different purpose, because now the only train that was really required to run, or at least not necessarily required to run, it could run, it didn't even have to set off the cars, especially if there was still switching available. But well, I shouldn't say that. It had to take the cars and bring them back, but there was no timeline as to when those cars had to be picked up or set off again, and you could wait before you did another one, and you know, you had so long to run the inbounds. As long as you started it, then you were okay. But as long as you were supplying the trains, then you're fine. That's not perfect, but a similar approach could take place, not so much automatically, like the clock down the countdown clock would, but in a different form. And the different form that I'm looking at is what I basically call um, the Eater of Worlds. And as I said in the post earlier, the Eater of, or wherever the hell I mentioned it, the Eater of Worlds is just is a phrase that's used to describe a professional wrestler who I know. And I kind of thought about it. It was like, what the hell's the Eater of Worlds mean? The Eater of Worlds concept is RTS version 2. Except it would do it would do something totally bold. And instead of worrying about train files, its primary goal would be to go through every saved world file and put everything into an array. Then it would match where cars were sitting in yards. And it wouldn't be so much in a countdown timer as it would an availability. So a system would basically allow it to adjust the world. Now, you can't do this in 24/7, at least without having to reload the world. But because of how I do things, I can actually start a session at any time, reload the world could be updated. And all the world would do is basically what it would do is it would take in whatever input was given to it. And if people wanted to run certain trains, it would somehow manage to flip trains as if they were actually physically run to accommodate it. So I haven't thought out all the variables in it. I still have to go through and see what operations are there. Okay, here's Fullerton now. I'd have to see what operations were in place, you know, what may or may not work, etc. But to me, having it basically take everything out of the world file and putting into data, and I don't see why it can't, because all you're doing is you're searching for particular strings of information. Once you find, and it's pretty easy with the XMLs, because once you find a particular string, then you're reading so many amounts of data into arrays. Now, I don't like coding, so I would prefer to avoid it if possible and deal with the Run8 system itself. So this isn't a concept I don't think would happen overnight. I would probably push more towards a concept that Ski's doing for now, and probably push that forward first until I learned what the locals were like and how, you know, what the boundaries are, and basically what the operations are like at every level before I would worry about the big picture. Because until you learn what those operations are like, satisfying it with big picture and trains, it's really difficult to do. Now you might think, well, okay, well, what's the point of doing all that extra work? Is it worth it? To be honest, I don't have the answer to that question. I think it is, but I'll be honest, I'm not big on coding. And yeah, I can do it. If there was anything that was worthwhile for me to code right now, and probably easier for me to code, it would be an AI dispatcher. And I keep saying that because the AI dispatcher I've already designed. I know how to do it. I know how I want to do it. I know everything that I do actually is a routine. Routines, if you follow a set procedure and rules in dispatching, like for example, how I Every 15 minutes, I dispatch 30 minutes ahead. I calculate the mileages. I make sure that the lengths don't run into issues between meeting points or safe points. I check priority of train. I check speed. I check, there's all kinds of things that go into dispatching. But I use my experience, and all I have to do is use those pseudocodes that I have to represent real code. The hidden ingredient here is, unfortunately, there is a DLL that is in both the external dispatcher and a DLL in the in Run8. And without that being published or available to developers like myself, we don't know what the protocol is to communicate with it. We know the port, but just knowing the port doesn't mean anything. Plus, I would have to learn CNET programming, more than likely. And that's an added thing. Would it be worth doing the CNET programming? Absolutely, especially if I knew how to do it. If I knew the protocol involved and what's required on my end, I wouldn't hesitate to do an AI dispatcher, because I think the AI dispatcher is much more critical in having everything run. In other words, all those trains that you saw on the saves, all those stop signals, they would all be part of a system. They would be able to dispatch themselves. They would get to where they need to go. They would deal with priorities. It doesn't have to be perfectly human. It doesn't have to be as intuitive, but it's much better than stacking trains. Stacking trains is great to get the trains going, but then when you're just bunching them up, the efficiency goes, and then you get groups of trains that come into your world where you got a slow train in front and a bunch of fast trains around them, and then you immediately have to find a way of getting those slow trains out of the way before you hit your territory. Now, as much as I love the connectivity of all the worlds and want to incorporate, I'd love to incorporate Barstow, I'd love to incorporate all kinds of things. For me right now, I treat Mojave as Mojave, and I will probably be treating, for the immediate future, LA as LA. I won't be intertwining them. That brings another challenge, and that is the not the industries. They're fine. The industry file is fine, but I'm going to have to probably write a batch program that will copy the traffic files, because the traffic files will change depending if I'm running LA or if I'm running Mojave, because the traffic files will be different for both. However, because they're part of the same region, basically what I have to do is I have to have a batch file that will copy the original into and replace it. So I'll have a backup of the I'll have a backup of LA's traffic file. I'll have a backup of Mojave's traffic file, and the actual traffic file will be overwritten by those backups depending upon what batch program that I decide to execute. Now, I could copy and paste it just as easily if I had it in a folder or something like that, but I'll probably do something. I may even have it in its own folder, but I'll create a subfolder and put it as a backup or master or slave or something like that, and just basically have it so that it's easy enough for me to change over from one traffic file to another, and then I can operate two simultaneous types of ongoing sessions without having to worry. So I imagine this guy's doing a station stop. Of course, I got the signals all set off. Yeah, he's got green lights. He should be fine. Oh, there's another train coming. How about I get over to the other side? What do you mean I got no cab view? Yes, I do. Oh, there he goes. What do you mean? Oh, I gotta go. Yeah. Oh, I had it. Go back. Oh! Perfect timing. Just in time. Okay, well, we'll look at that. So, yeah, it's going to be and as far as RTS, the way RTS used to be, where you just basically have a train and you spawn something in and away it goes. Oh, that's neat. That's coming off a curve. You can see everything coming around it. That's pretty cool. I want to see that for a second. Oh, I saw the curve there for a second. I was like, whoa. Well, I guess he came out of Did he come out of San Diego? Looked like he did. It was just a curve. Okay. Another train coming behind him. Looked like he was coming out, but anyways. So yeah, I'm waiting to see. Ski's obviously replied because he's certainly interested in LA and he's doing his thing, and I look forward to keep running with him because one, it's enjoyable. My son seems to be interested in doing it, so we'll see how far that goes. But I actually want to see him watch Ski and I run one night as well, whether it be a weekend or whatever. But I'll keep in touch with him and see how he wants to do that. Or bottom line is, with my son, I'm just gonna, he's gonna have to understand that a lot of these things need to be somewhat scheduled or planned ahead. A lot of times his form of scheduling, other than going away someplace or having a day out, or his karate or whatever he has going, a lot of his ongoing plans is basically, okay, well, so what do you want to do, Dad? That's his, so what do you want to do? Or do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Yeah, that's the kind of thing. So it's really, there's no planning involved. It's spur of the moment. What's next? And yeah, there'll be certain things, a wrestling show will come on or something like that, and he'll know that's coming up, and yeah, he'll be looking forward to that. I'm not too sure if Run8's going to fall into that category where he can schedule it and look forward to it or not, or if it's just going to be something for him to do when he's might be, trying to pass time with his dad at my place on the weekends. I mean, he wants to have fun, I know that. Well, we got a yellow signal. Oh, that was the other side. It's because we got a train coming on the other track. So yeah, there's a lot to digest still. There's it's going to take me some time. Of course, this is a huge distraction for me as well, and I know it is, and I mean that in a good way. I have the willpower not to let it distract me if I want to. I could just take it in stride, do it, once a week, once a month, whatever I think I need to keep me going. But one thing is, I lost my focus on some of the other things that I was trying to establish and try to do. I've kind of lost my focus on that, and like I said, having a plan is one thing, having the action to do it is a totally different thing, and I'm guilty of that. I have a lot of ideas, and then when it gets down to it, it's just like procrastination. But usually necessity, or trying to make something better, if I see it at the end of the tunnel and I can see it happen. After all, I did do the RTS beta eventually. Over time, I had a lot more time back then, but I was able to get the RTS beta out in version 1 of RTS early on. I was able to continue to update it until version 2 came out, plus I had Ski's help towards the end as well. So I'm certainly capable. It's just a matter of of, it's going to be a matter of two things. It's going to be the work that's involved to get it done versus the enjoyment I have in just doing it or wanting it done or just getting around it and finding the easy way. I'll likely head towards the easy way as much as I possibly can, but the more people that are interested in this, the more, again, I've said it all along, the more people that are interested in it or want to go down this route, that'll change the way I approach things as well. If I see people that are really wanting to do something with LA, it's you know, it's a $40 route. I think it's worth it. I was fortunate enough, and I wasn't ready to make this purchase, but I was fortunate enough. Ski purchased this for me as a gift, so that was really, you know, nice of him. And you know, now I want to take advantage of it. I don't want it to go to waste, so I do want to do the things that I, you know. There's a lot of stuff to learn. I can't believe I'm doing this much in California, considering how much I wanted to get into Florida and wanted to get into other places. The other thing that's on my mind too, before I end this, because I'm just starting to ramble now, and then I'll end this for the evening. As I said before, the one thing I do like about Mojave is the relative peacefulness of it in comparison of the hustle and bustle like in LA and all the double and triple traffic and all the other stuff that's going on. So being able to, it's kind of weird. Those boxcars are just fill-in things again. One of these days I'll get the bare tables for all that, or I'll set some filters so that they don't come into play. But having the oh, I've lost my train of thought. I don't know. I thought about the bare tables and then I totally lost my train of thought again. Whatever. But yeah, the easiness of Mojave and just the peacefulness of it, and being able to do other things while I run, that is very important to me. So that being said, I still think that dispatching or just running a server and going about overseeing or just virtual rail fanning may be just as interesting. Because as long as I'm providing the service, then it's not a big deal. So it's a lot to think. It's a lot to consider. I'll see how things go. The other thing I may have to do is I may have to at some point consider who my... Holy crap. Repeat, no defects. The other thing I'll have to consider is who the audience is on Sunday, who the audience is on Wednesday, and if necessary, what day can I use. I don't want to burn myself out either. And last night was the first time I was close to feeling it. And I kind of felt it this morning until I started thinking of ways of improving things. For myself at least. But I was feeling it. I started feeling it, thinking, you know, the overwhelming, the number of challenges that lie ahead. I still have personal goals. I still want to make more money. I want to do all kinds of different things. So there's a lot to really balance in life, you know. Having my son involved in this, if that happens, that's going to be a huge bonus for me, because then I'll be able to do some of the things with him while still developing a system, and he may be interested in that. He said he was interested in it before, so It'd be nice to get him involved in those things. Of course, if we ever get the warmer weather start coming, spring really hasn't arrived here. But if we ever get that, you know, he's definitely, as I am, looking forward to rafting this year. So we want to get that ready. So that's going to take some time away, but I think it's all positive. No matter what Run8 does, I'm not too worried about it at this point. I kind of want to focus on this now. If Run8 has something else down the line that catches my attention, okay. But since we don't know of anything and they're talking about version 3, I don't know what version 3 is going to have, but right now this is appealing enough for me. I don't need anything else. There's plenty here to keep me busy for a very long time. So, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, you know, if you look at the other things, like you take a look at Mojave, there wasn't too many other things I could do in Mojave by myself. Barstow, yeah, Barstow's awesome. I love the hump yards. I love Waycross. But unfortunately, Florida wasn't as popular for me. I didn't see enough interest in it, and being stuck in Waycross, just humping all the time, was not my idea of running a server. So, wow, this is a nice spot here. I like it. This is cool. Ooh. I like this. It's not all desert. So that's kind of nice. Where are we? Oh, yeah. Esperanza. I went through. I think, yeah, we went through here yesterday. I think we did, anyways. I don't know where the hell we were. Oh, well. We were somewhere. But Esperanza looks cool. I like it. So, yeah, there's a lot. I've flown through all of this. It's just, you know, coming from this view, it's like all of a sudden there's just like, whoa, this is neat. Kind of cool. Yeah, I guess I'll look out this way for a while. But yeah, it's you know, there's a lot here that's, you know, Florida. I mean, I really hate the fact that I couldn't do as much as I wanted to in Florida. Florida was just, that's running that supply train. I found was not so much running the supply train. You can actually AI a lot of it, but so I suppose I could have AI'd it and did the manual thing and, you know, do whatever. But I'm starting to feel a part of me wants to take on the train master position. And this was something I didn't really consider before and something I wanted to avoid. And what the train master position is basically it's somebody who makes sure that the trains get out and spawned and all that other stuff, and that the crews are there and everything's going. But it also ties into what RTS could potentially tie into, and that is, instead of relying on the scheduling, whatever scheduling system is, or whatever the way they make up trains with an RTS system, you can make up the trains you want to. Now, the difference here is, if you're going to be a train master, you can't be running a train. However, if you have, and this was the trick I found on Mojave sub the other night, and I forgot about this, external dispatcher has the ability to AI any enemy train that's on CTC. Now, we don't have external dispatcher for California, or sorry, we don't have an external dispatcher for LA. TSCAD is supposedly coming out sometime before I die, so that's cool. I probably will buy it. I don't see why I wouldn't at this point, because that would give me more options to handle things and try traffic patterns and more realistic dispatching, and you know, not having to babysit the dispatch board while still being able to do other things. In fact, I probably could dispatch as well as do local work, and my son and I that might be something we can do. So there's potential there. But there's really a lot of potential, I think. So anyways, I'll see what you guys reply with on the forum, especially the forums. I want the forum. I don't want the YouTube comments. I mean, I get YouTube comments all the time. I hope people use the forums that are there, because I try to post in it. There's a lot of great forum conversations going on in Train Sim right now, with all the excitement. Run8V2, at least the regular Run8V2, has some stuff going on, but it doesn't really seem to have too much going on, at least their forum, which was kind of surprising when I went in the other day. I was like, whoa, okay. So I guess their Depot Plus forum is where all the action is, I take it. But I don't have access to that, so. But Train Sim was the busiest forum I've been on yet, and there's a lot of talk going on, so, which is cool. It's nice to see. I think I stirred up a hornet's nest with a topic the other day, and then this came out. It's kind of funny. Every time there's a new update or a new release or something like that, whatever plans I had before suddenly is in risk of changing. So that's kind of, you know, it's a bad thing, but it's always for a good thing. And of course, Mojave sub is slightly at risk, only because I see a lot of potential here. But at the same time, I do like the peacefulness of Mojave sub. So I can see myself continuing that, or trying to do both, or I don't know. I would love to merge the two, but I don't see that happening anytime soon, because that's going to involve a lot of... it's just going to involve too much, and just spawning, or just having fleeting and all that other crap going on. I don't know. I can't see it happening, personally. But, yeah, you never know. I mean, anything's possible, I suppose, but I wish there was more spawn points. Then that might be feasible, because then I could at least, I could run the rest of the Mojave sub up to California, or up to LA. I could run the entire Mojave sub, which would include the section at Cajon. I could leave BNSF alone, and then I could turn around, and I wish there was a spawn point in the canyon for BNSF, because personally I could care less about the desert. Barstow's not a factor for me any longer, because I'm not sorting trains out or worried about the BNSF trains, to be honest. All I want to do in that case is, honestly, in that case, that would be the eye candy. But if I can't get the eye candy in the Cajon sub, because it would be kind of cool to, if you're on a BNSF train seeing a UP, or UP seeing BNSF, I think that's a highlight of being down there. Just like it's a highlight being on both sides of the Los Angeles River, to see another train. But if I can't do that, there is still the spawn points here, of course, is Riverside. I think I mentioned this the other night. So we got spawn points at Riverside. We've got spawn points, so that's for BNSF going westbound. There's both westbound and eastbound spawn points coming from San Diego at Atwood Junction and Fullerton. There is I guess that's a westbound spawn point at CP Pico Rivera on the Los Angeles sub, which is the only place you can connect to a train. So you can represent a train coming in even though it's not technically connected, which is no big deal. You can use the other one to outbound if you want. If you want to use the Alhambra sub, you can outbound the trains heading up that way as well. Again, West Taylor Yard is the opposite for stuff coming from the harbor, I guess. I guess that comes from the harbor on that side because it follows the LA River, or sort of does, or whatever. And then you have the Alameda corridor, which is joint BNSF UP to Long Beach, so that kind of goes that way, and then I guess somehow goes, I think it heads east and then goes west and it turns and goes east or something. I don't know what the hell it does. It goes around in a circle or something. I know it does some weird thing, but it just basically avoids all the, it's mostly underground, and then it just pops up somewhere. I don't know. I would have to take it. I mean, looking at this, I have a hard time picturing what it does other than the general direction. It could be turning south and north for all I know, but I really can't tell. Why's that train stop? Oh, there must be a crew change, I guess. I'm just wondering why that train is stopped at oh, that's because there's a switch against it. I see it now. There's the Wyatt Yuma Junction there, and there's that train that's stopped there. But anyways, okay, that's enough. I've done enough yapping for tonight. So yeah, by all means, check out the Wikia forum if you have more information that you'd like to pass along about interest, availability. You know, I'm still got a lot of ideas cooking in my head as far as where I want to go with this thing, and it's definitely something that I'm seriously considering pushing even further, and that might include finally it might include doing something with RTS. But if I can get around programming, trust me, I will, and I'll find a way. So we'll see. I might try to use their software and see how far I can go with it by using the industries. But if I don't like how it works, or if I want a more controlled system under my way, I'll probably end up coding it, or at least slowly coding and integrating it to replace whatever I do. That's easy, and then slowly integrate new features in and see how it goes. But I don't want to spend too much time on it either, because, like I said, summer's coming. I got a lot of other things I want to do besides hang around a computer. And yeah, it's just, you know, this is a huge freaking distraction for me. It's a good distraction. I like it, but it's still a distraction nonetheless, and I still have some important things that I want to do. So anyways, that's it for now. It's good to have some fun, so that's what I say. Makes you happier. So I'll be back tomorrow night. Oh yeah, if I have issues with the dryer for whatever reason, I will post a message probably on the forum, but you will not see the live stream go up until I'm ready to go. So hopefully I'll be up 10 minutes to 6 p.m. tomorrow night if all goes well, and if it doesn't, well, I will post an update on the Wikia. And other than that, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.